There are a lot of specialized terms in animation and animated filmmaking, and I just won't be able to go over all of them in one video. For a broader glossary of animation terms, check out the Bloopanimation book and course, Animation for Beginners. What I will be going over in this video are the important terms that will come up over the rest of this course. I'll be explaining some of these terms in depth later, but I want you to have a basic familiarity now so that you're better able to follow along. Let's get started. The timeline is the part of your animation software that represents your animation's progress over time. Depending on your software, you might use the timeline to make changes to the timing of your animation as well as the position of the elements. The frame rate of an animation is the number of individual images or frames that are being displayed over the course of 1 second. This is a setting you can adjust in your software. Animation is usually done in 24 frames per second. Working on ones or twos is a term used in hand-drawn animation. Working on ones would mean doing a new drawing over every single frame of the animation. Working on twos means displaying each drawing for 2 frames. So 1 second of animation at 24 frames per second would only be 12 drawings, not 24. This looks fine in most instances, and there are even cases where drawings can be held longer. Normally, in live-action filmmaking, the term shot refers to the images between camera edits. And a scene is all the shots and dialogue that take place at a particular location for a continuous block of time. However, often in animation, particularly 2D animation, we use the term scene to mean what live-action filmmakers would call a shot. If you hear me use the word scene, I probably mean it in the sense of a shot, a specific continuous piece of animation in between camera cuts. Keyframes, breakdowns, and in-betweens are important terms, but they mean slightly different things depending on the type of animation you're doing. In hand-drawn animation, keyframes, or just keys, are the major important poses that define the scene. Breakdowns come between keys and define what the motion from key to key will be. In-betweens are all the frames that come in between to smooth out the emotion. Now in 3D, or computer-tween 2D, a keyframe is any position on the timeline where the animator has defined the position of the character. In-betweens are all the frames that the computer interpolates, or automatically generates, to move the character from key to key. Timing, spacing, and easing are closely related terms. Timing means the total number of frames that will be used for a movement. Spacing is the amount of change that comes between each frame. Decreasing spacing makes an object slower, and increasing spacing makes it look faster. And in digital animation, easing is how spacing is controlled, usually through a motion graph on the timeline. More on all these later. When animating, it's very useful to be able to see more than 1 frame at a time. In paper animation, this is done by having multiple drawings on a light table. But in animation software, there's often a feature called onion skinning. This lets you see semi-transparent representations of the frames behind or ahead of the current frame you're working on. This is particularly important in hand-drawn animation. Compositing is the process of putting all the individual pieces of a scene together to create the final visual output. So you might have a background, multiple characters, and some scenery, all being worked on separately. Compositing is how all those pieces get put together into a single scene. Great, hopefully that wasn't too overwhelming. Don't worry about remembering all these ideas completely. You'll understand better as we go through the next section on the 12 principles of animation. Let's get started.